Okay. Just making sure we are actually live here. Oh, we're live on LinkedIn. Great. That's one of three. So let's just get Facebook going here. And then, there we go. Okay. And we are live. So thank you so much for joining us. This is the Another Way podcast where I interview artists pursuing their careers another way. And if you'd like to know more about what that means, you can go to my website, check out my blog, www.showgoesonproductions.com. I also have another podcast called Another Way to View Reality, which is a little bit more about the spiritual side of being an artist. And I'm Emileena. I'm writing a book about artist development called Another Way, the Tao of Artist Development. Tao as in Taoism, not to be confused with NFTs or crypto. So today, which is confusing for a lot of people, today I am so excited to be joined by Jodie Bentley, writer, actress. Actually, sorry. Let me get your, since we are live and I get to edit this in the real thing, I want to make sure I get your title correct because you wear many hats. I know you're an entrepreneur and an actress. I'm actually not sure if you're a writer. So tell me tell me your.
I am writing. I'm in the middle of writing a screenplay. Yeah. So, and I've written a couple books, on the business of acting. So I'm owning writer. I'm owning writer now.
Okay.
So actor, writer, producer, career coach.
Okay, perfect. All right. So let's try this again. Take two. Today I am joined with Jodie Bentley, writer. Oh my gosh. Wait, give them to me one more time.
Actor, writer, producer, career coach.
Okay. Actor, writer, producer, career coach. Okay. Yeah. All right, here we go. Uh-oh, wait, you're freezing a little bit. Okay, there you are. Yeah, you're good. Today I am joined by Jodie Bentley, actor, writer, producer, coach. She wears many hats. I'm so excited to be talking to you, Jodie, today. Thank you for joining us.
Oh my God, I'm so happy to be here.
Yay!
And connect with you.
Yeah, I know. It's been a long time. So we met years ago. I don't even want to know what the date was. It was towards the beginning of my time in New York when I was still stage managing on this beautiful gem of a show, Girl Gang, that you were the lead in. Was that your first time working on that show? Because I know it had many incarnations.
Yes, I did. I did a reading of it, and then we did the full staged version in New York. But yeah, they had done a few incarnations before I got involved. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And that was on Off Broadway. It was awesome. And such a close-knit group. So I'm thrilled that we stayed in touch.
I know.
Because it's been really cool following your journey and watching you kind of go from New York to LA. So lots of really exciting stuff to talk about. But let's start with, you can give us a little intro, like your elevator pitch if you want, of who you are. And then I also want to hear about your background, like where you're from and anything that you feel like has really shaped who you are today.
Got it. Well, first and foremost, I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. I typically tell stories and play in stories about myopic and obsessed women to the extreme is kind of what I do. So as an actor, those are my stories. As a writer, that's what I write. And in my other life, I'm a career coach, and I've been a coach since 2008. And I really help people identify and hone in on their branding and who they are and the stories they want to tell and the legacy that they want to leave. And that's really, just as an artist, my driving force is what's the legacy and why are we here? What's the purpose? Because this business is too hard if you don't have a purpose and a why.
Word. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I am East Coast gal through and through, born and raised in Massachusetts. Moved to New York City when I was 17 years old to go to college. Couldn't wait to get out of Dodge and get to New York. I went to NYU to study art, acting, and when I graduated, I was 21 years old, and I thought, I'm going to be on Broadway by the time I'm 22, and life is going to be amazing. And it so did not work out that way at all. Like I floundered for a really long time. I would say about 7, 8 years.
Mm,
And I did every non-paying job that I could do, all those black box theaters in New York and
yes.
St. Mark's Place, all that, right?
Yeah.
And I did 8 years of that, and finally I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And so then I knew something was missing, and I knew that it was business, and it was the business skills of stuff that were missing for me. So I literally read every freaking business book that I could read, probably about 6 months. I just was like a sponge reading everything. And then I started creating like systems for myself. I was like, okay, I read all this stuff about branding for a business. Now, how do I do that for me? How do I take these business principles of branding or marketing and start to apply them to self? And once I did that, that's when my career opened up in New York. And that's when I got my first agent and my first off-Broadway show. And I got to do a cast recording with Steven Schwartz. And it was just like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And then it was around that time, all my friends were like, hey, can I take you out for coffee? Like, what's happening? And after about like the 40th free coffee date, I thought, skill set that people don't have. I've learned something here that people need. And that's when I really started my business, started creating my systems and just honing in on just the structures that I teach now. That's really how it all started.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And so many artists I find, are afraid to do that business stuff. Like they're allergic to that business side. So you really embraced it. And one thing I always say is that it actually makes you a stronger artist if you do that. So do you have any thoughts on how embracing the business side has like actually made you a better artist?
Oh my God. I mean, that's like my life's purpose, right?
Yeah.
I feel it's just the most empowering thing you can do,
Yes.
because I think as an artist, I think so many times we feel we have no power and we have no control, right? I'm at the whim of this industry, whether my agent emails me today if I have an audition. And then I'm going to do a great audition, but then I'm at the whim if that's what the producers want, because they might have wanted a blonde at the end of the day or changed it to, a man. Who knows?
Right.
So because there's so much that we can't control, I think people just go, well, I can't, so I'm just going to do this thing and I'll be at the whim of the industry. But I think if you can really, I know that if you can really, really treat it as a business, own it as a business, and own your place as a business owner, then you can define yourself. You can define your product. You can create your marketing tools of how you want to be seen, how you want to be perceived, how you want to be known. And then you can create a strategy. I mean, so many actors come to me and they're like, well, I can't get in the doors and I haven't been able to get an agent. And it's like, well, who are you? What do you do? What do you sell? It's like, well, no, I'm versatile. I can do anything. And it's like, oh, but that, and that was me in my 20s. I'm like, just pay me. I'll do anything. I don't care. Don't even pay me. I don't care, but it's so important to take that power back and go, but this is who I am. This is how I'm presenting that to the world. This is what I want. And this is what I'm doing to get it.
Yeah.
And some people are going to buy it and some people aren't going to buy it. And that's okay. You don't need everyone in the world to like you. You don't need every agent in Los Angeles or New York to sign you. You just need that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to own the business side it's literally the most empowering thing. I can't even say those words enough. It's just, it's ownership and power. That's what it is.
I love it. I love it. And actually, I love that you're touching on this kind of, creating an authentic brand basically about who you are, because one of the things so I've kind of steered away from actors in my coaching work because I struggle with that because I mean, probably because I grew up in old school theater where they do, when I went to theater school, I went to a conservatory for acting where it's all about, be the blank slate. We want you to be a blank slate when you're going in and you have to adapt and morph. And I found it challenging to kind of be able to craft something authentic out of that can be strong and authentic and still be able to kind of get the work. And you are nailing that. So yeah, have you ever felt a conflict with that? Yeah.
I mean, look, yes, in my 20s, I was completely conflicted in that, but it's, like theater school is amazing, right? It's amazing because it's there to stretch you and give you these tools and give you this craft. But then they go bye-bye and kick you out the door and you're like, "Oh, but I can do all these things." Like my last role at NYU, I played Fest Day and Twelfth Night, and it was a bald hunchbacked man. I grew out my leg hair, I grew out my armpit hair, I wore a bald cap, and I was like, "I'm the most amazing actor in the world."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're right. I can get any job after this,
I
right?
can do anything, you know?
Yeah.
And then I go out in the real world, and at that time I had a mop of red curly hair, and I'm like, "Why is nobody seeing me for these serious Shakespearean roles I wanna play?" It's like, because you have a mop of red curly hair and your energy is lighter, is stronger, is more fiery.
Yeah.
So it was such a disconnect in my head of wanting to be Ibsen and Chekhov and Shakespeare, but having this other look and being perceived in a different way.
Yeah.
And that was the challenge for the long time. So it took me a while to go, "Oh, okay. People are perceiving me in a certain way because that's what we do. It's not a judgment. It's just, oh, you have strong bone structure. You must play strong, bitchy women." Like that's what I get. You know what I mean? Or at that time, I had red curly hair, and curly hair is more comedy. We go, "Oh, you must be funny or bohemian or whatever." So we look at just even physicality of our faces and hairstyles, and we make an assumption about someone because we have preconceived notions about stuff. That's just
Mhm.
life.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so many times we resist that. And I think a lot of actors resist that. I resisted that. But I just think it's understanding your natural energy, your natural inclinations, your natural essences that you put out in the world and going, "Well, how can I hone this and package this? And is
Mhm.
that the stories that I want to tell?"
Mhm. Exactly.
Because what I realized was, again, this curly hair, everyone was putting me into comedy, and I started falling in love with the comedy niche. Um, and then I realized, no, I really want to play strong, powerful lawyers and doctors and CEOs and whatever. Like I wanted to play those powerful women. And as soon as I straightened my hair, I never forget, I walked into my agent's office in New York, and it was Abrams Artist. And I walked in the door and she went, "There you are." And I was like,
Oh.
"Oh," because the packaging that I was doing wasn't matching the essence and wasn't matching how I was perceived. So there was just a
Yeah.
disconnect for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we get to examine is, okay, well, what is the kind of career that you want? What are the stories that you want to tell? Now, how can you get everyone else on board your train?
Totally. I love that.
Yeah.
Also, I'm just going to fix my camera here for a second. Hold on. Your camera is so clear and amazing. I'm like, what is wrong with my camera? Okay.
I have like 40 lights on me. That's
Oh,
the
really?
trick.
Because
Maybe
you're an
not 40.
actress, you know the business, you know what it's supposed to look like. So cool. Nailing it again. Cool. So yeah, and you kind of touched on this, but this what happens like, and again, I find this a lot that when there's a disconnect between what somebody wants and what people are perceiving them as. And so
Yeah.
you talked about how you had to like change your hair, which by the way, though, that cute redhead, curly redhead was perfect for Girl Gang.
But I still straightened it for that. I had it in rollers and we softened it. I don't know if you remember that. So it wasn't
Oh,
straight
really?
curls.
I
It
remember
probably
your curls.
it probably looked more like this in Girl Gang,
Okay. Yeah,
actually.
yeah. But I
Yeah,
remember, maybe I just remember your headshot. I remember your headshot too. It was like
right.
that buoyancy was perfect for that.
Totally.
Cool.
Totally.
But yeah, so have you had people who come and actually, if you don't mind talking about the work that goes into that, because that's some of the work that I do, I would call it
Mm,
ego work, where it's when
mm.
there is a disconnect between what they're projecting versus what they feel like they are. Does that make sense?
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. And I want to answer that, and I just want to touch upon, you said sort of the blank slate actor
Yeah.
thing, and I do think that was such a New York thing in the 90s and early aughts,
Mm.
you know, and even prior to that, I remember like showing up to auditions in my black turtleneck of like, "I'll be who you want me to be." You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like you
totally. Yeah.
take my personality and leave it outside the door, and like, let me do what I think you want me to do with this thing,
Right.
you know? And our industry has just changed so much. And it really started, whether you love it or hate it, with the advent of reality television, right? Because then there was a platform for multiple kinds of people,
Interesting.
shapes, sizes, colors, energies, personalities, all kind, and we fell in love with that because that was real. And then auditions became like, "No, I want to see you. I want to see your energy, your personality through this monologue, through these sides." Because every actor is going to come in and make similar choices. Let's be real. If it's good
Right.
writing, the writing tells us what it needs. And we
Yeah.
can come in and go, well, I'm going to give the writing what I think it needs, as opposed to what's my take on this? What's my
Mm,
POV through this material? How can I
mm,
collaborate with this material to show them me?
I love that.
And that for me was the way in,
Mhm,
right? That it's
mhm,
not about blank slate. Because then I started going to auditions and people would say, no, just show me you. Just show me you. And we
mm.
hear that so much. And then as an actor, I'd be like, what do you mean show me me?
Yeah.
I know who I am. I know who this character
Crisis.
is. I don't know who I am.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Um,
Existential crisis.
yeah. But that's I love it that you just called it ego work, because that is part of what it is, of working through knowing thyself. And that's one of the first things I do with clients. I have seven steps that I teach, and the first one is called personalization, and it's really about who you are as a human and a person. What's getting in your way? What are your limiting beliefs? What are your excuses? What do you believe? Who do you want to be? Like all of those things, because that's the basis of it. Or
Cool.
else, again, like I said, or else this career is too hard,
Yeah.
because then we're trying to do what we feel we should do or
Mhm,
be who we should be. And everyone has an opinion, and everyone's going to go, oh, you should be the doctor lawyer, or you should be the sassy best friend, or you should do voiceover, you should do this. Everyone's going to should all over you,
right.
which gets very messy.
Right.
So it's important to know thyself and come from that place. But I think when there's the disconnect, it is working through, because we hold on to stuff, right? But no, but I want this. I want to be seen as this, right? Ooh. Okay. But we're seeing this. So how can we make those two play nicely together? How can we show that other color that you want to show, but
Mhm,
maybe it's not time to lead with that color, right? Maybe it's
mhm,
time to
mhm,
lead with another color. And then when they start to know you and go, oh, I like her, and they call you in again and again and again, then you can be like, and I have this thing. And then they
mhm,
go, oh, I
mhm.
didn't know that. It's like, me as a singer. I'll go into an audition room here and it might be something for a singing thing. I'm like, oh no, I sing too. They're like, oh God, you sing? It's like, but everyone in New York knew me as a singer, right? So
Right.
what do you lead with now? And then what's the surprise? And now my singing is a surprise. Like,
Cool.
okay. But I think it's leading with what's going to get you in the room, what's going to get you seen, what's going to get you remembered, and then you show that other stuff.
Okay.
It's like I always use Tom Hanks as an example. Like, he was a classically trained actor. He did Shakespeare. He did all that stuff. And then, he started off in Bosom Buddies,
I love bosom buddies. I
right?
love
Like
that show.
multicam, cross-dressing
Yeah.
craziness.
Yeah. Silly.
Became,
Very silly.
the 80s, 90s rom-com guy. And then Philadelphia hit. And like, then I really think, like, not that he didn't find himself with comedy, but then I really believe he was like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for.
Mm,
But he was just had that comedy knack and energy, and that's what we wanted from him.
yeah.
But even now in all of his roles, because everything since then has been very like serious, dramatic, everyman kind of
Yeah.
role. But he still has humor. He still brings that sense of himself to it. But he was able to bridge that gap really well.
Yeah.
And we can, a lot of actors can bridge it well, then a lot of actors don't. But I
Yeah.
think it's leading with what is that strength and what are people seeing, and how can you, again, play nicely with that, and hopefully that feels good and we can figure out a way to make that feel good
Mhm.
to get in the door. It's
Right.
like Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp was pretty boy, started off as and now look at him with Tim Burton and all these crazy eccentric characters, and that's what he's always wanted to do.
Yes. Yeah. He's really
He
stuck to his brand, I feel like.
Yeah, but he
Yeah.
played the game by his own rules to
Right.
get what he wanted, and I think
Mhm.
that's the key, because some people say, "I just need to play the game." It's like, well, play them by your rules, though, right?
Mhm.
Because you gotta play
Mhm.
the game. We can't be mad at the game or pout at the game or
Right.
resist the game. You gotta play the game, but please play it by your own rules.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I feel like too, it becomes then it doesn't have to be so hard. You said that earlier, it doesn't have to be so hard where you can't, God forbid, you show like a little bit of your personality. And so I'm curious what you would say to people, because I know this is kind of a divisive thing in the theater community. I found of
Mm,
like people who are going into theater. Like, what would you want to say? Like, I know there's people. I remember going to college with people who were like, "Oh, I could never do theater because it's too hard," because they think it's all of those things. And part of me wants to dispel that and be like, no, it's great, it's wonderful. Like, it doesn't have to be so difficult. But then on the other hand, part of me is like, if you don't want to do the work, I'm not going to encourage you because it's not an easy industry, So like,
Yeah.
what do you say?
Oh God.
Yeah, it's a tough question.
It's a tough question. I mean, you know, I mean, are we really talking like we're talking about doing the work? Like, I mean, to have a career and have it not just be a hobby, you
Mm-hmm.
gotta treat it like a business and do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not, other people are. And one of the things I'll always say is if you're resistant to branding and that trend, find a term that you like. I mean, I love the word brand. Some people are like, I can't use branding. Great. Find another word, essence, vibe, niche, whatever,
Yeah.
POV. I don't care. Um, um, but we got to remember that if you choose not to do that for yourself and you're like, no, I'm just going to show up and be a good actor, you got to remember that people are branding you. So even if you don't want to brand
Mm-hmm.
yourself, people are branding you. So you might as well be in control of what they are seeing, or else again you're leaving it up to the whim, right? Because people are branding
Yes.
you even if you're not branding yourself. Like everyone watching now is tuning, like you've already made an assumption about me in the first 30 seconds of this video. You made an assumption about Emileena in the first 30 seconds. It's what we do. We can't help it.
Yeah. 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 I agree. So might as well take the reins of it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. So let's talk about your move to LA, which I feel like is always a big move when you go from New York to LA. It's also a big move to go from LA to New York, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's a bigger move to go from New York to LA. I don't know. I mean, I have opinions about LA, but I want to hear about your experience from New York to LA and the differences in general.
That's so funny that I think there was something in my head too. Though I have a lot of LA clients who move to New York and I think they get culture shock as well.
Oh,
And I
really?
think it's because LA feels so large, right? I mean,
Yeah.
New York, like,
It's very,
the
yeah.
audition areas were like I run into people every day on the streets of New York. You'd be like, oh, hey, hey, hey. Like you just see people all the time. So it felt like this small community and we were all working together and it was gritty and it was like we had to wear our bags on our bags on our back every day.
Your entire life in your bag. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Pairs
never
of
went back to
shoes.
the apartment, you go to Starbucks and you would kick your
Yeah.
computer out and do some work.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
so I think the nice thing was I was coming out here for business about 3 years prior before I moved to teach. Like I was coming out here to coach. I had an acting teacher who had seen me speak in New York and he was like, LA needs you. I'm going to fill a room for you to speak in. And I was like, okay. So I started coming out here and that's how it started.
Mhm.
And, the thing so when I was in New York and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to LA," pretty much all of my friends were like, "LA, ugh, all the people there, so fake. I can't believe you're going to LA." Ugh, like, and
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, "No, LA, ooh," right? Because that's what you
Yeah.
hear. It's what you hear.
Totally, it's true.
And
Yeah,
then
I'm one of those people sometimes.
I think I was one of those people.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
then I came out here and you start talking to people and talking to actors and you're like, no, they're just good creative people. Like wherever you go, you're gonna find your people,
Yeah, it's true.
and wherever you go are going to be mean people and narcissistic people and not nice people. They're everywhere. They're
Yeah,
not just in Los Angeles. And people go, oh, New Yorkers are so mean on the street. I'm like, no, they're not. Like, you're going to find mean people anywhere.
yeah.
So I think we need to stop the coastal stereotypes, though there are definitely some stereotypes, but we need to stop them.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I think moving out here, it just seemed so expansive that it was scary, that I wasn't going to have this close knit of people. And I moved out here later in my career. I was like, I can't believe I'm moving to LA now. Like I should have done this in my 20s, not
Yeah,
in my 30s.
yeah.
Um, and but I think the biggest difference, okay, so traveling out here for a couple of years, and then I finally admitted to myself, like, okay, I want to be here. Because every time I went on a vacation, which wasn't, all the time, but every time I went on a vacation, it was to go somewhere sunny and tropical.
Mhm.
And so then I had the thought of, why don't I just live somewhere sunny and
What
tropical?
a concept. Yeah,
Why,
yeah,
why does that have to be vacation? Why does that have to be 1 week out of the year or 2 weeks out of
yeah.
the year? So that was really the big draw. And once I made up my mind, I moved within 6 months, and
Good for
and
you.
it was fabulous. It's been the thing with New York. I feel is the doors are closed. When I was in New York, I felt like all the doors are closed and you have to work really hard to get in those doors. And you got to keep knocking and keep knocking and keep trying and keep trying. And eventually they will open. And when they open, you're in, but it took a long time. It takes a long time to get in those doors. For me, it found, right? And then coming to LA, I felt like the doors were wide open. People were like, yeah, come on in, come audition here, come meet this person, come to this networking event, come here. I felt like all the doors were open, but then you just get to weed out. Can I swear on this? Is that cool?
Yeah, of course.
I think I probably already have, but then you just get to weed out the bullshit. Do you know what I mean? Because all the doors are open and you're like, are you the real deal? Are you blowing smoke? Are you like, but all the doors are open. And I felt like I actually built relationships here faster than I ever did in New York. But then you get to weed out like what's truth, what's not, who's of integrity, who's not, right? So there's a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
Because everything's open. But I think I find that New Yorkers or East Coasters do really well in Los Angeles because we have that drive. Living in New York, you're not in the hustle in New York. Like you gotta be in that, right?
Yeah.
Constantly. You're constantly moving. And LA does have a slower vibe, a little more laid back vibe. So if you come here with that energy, it like people are like, oh, like it's you're bringing a different vibe. And that's so I liked that a lot. But the big thing about LA is I keep looking out my window. It's just the space.
Yeah.
Space.
It is nice to have space.
Physical space creates psychological space, I think. And that for me was the big like like my size of my closet was the size of my first apartment in my bedroom in New York. The size of my closet is the size of my first apartment bedroom in New York.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's true. There is more space. That is nice. And I don't think a lot of New Yorkers will say, we got to get out like once a month. I mean, once a year. Once a month would be amazing. Once a year to kind of like, realize that, the world doesn't revolve around this tiny little bubble in New York, and to like get a breath of fresh air and then come back and go right back into it. And I think that's because of this space. Yeah, we are in really tight spaces. It's really
on the subway, on the street, like you're just always close to people. There's always people in your proximity. And you get used to that. Like I was used to that forever. So much so that when I came here, I'm like, where are the people? Why is there no people? Like you start to feel alone, which is the other thing. The bad thing I think about LA is you can just sit in your car and feel alone. Where in New York, there's always people. It's easy to reach out. True. I think my social life was easier in New York. I think you have to work hard at it in LA. And because people live all over the place, and so your friends start to be within your like 2-mile radius, like I'm like, oh, if I meet someone new, where do you live? Culver City? Oh, I'm in the Valley. No, we can't.
Yeah, exactly. Same in New York if you're in a borough,
That's true.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah, well, that's an amazing. I love the way you describe kind of weeding through the bullshit. That's like the best way I've heard it explained. It's so optimistic and you made it sound so like not as bullshitty as as someone who hasn't lived there, but who has dealt with some of that bullshit, it's like, I appreciate the way you're like, you just have to weed through the bullshit. And that's just part of it, and it's interesting because that might be an extra level there, but then in New York, you've got this extra level of being in these, not having space, and psychologically that can wear on you, So yeah, actually, I think that's a very, great comparison. So now tell us about what you're doing now, what's exciting you, what you're seeing, trends that you're seeing like post-pandemic.
Oh God. Well, I'll just have to say that first of all, this is very silly and completely off topic, but the thing that's exciting me the most, I have 2 mourning doves that visit every day on my patio, and I am so in love with these birds. So that's the thing that's most exciting me the most right now, as silly as that sounds.
No, I love that.
We got a bird feeder. I'm looking at dove bird houses for them, nesting boxes. They literally come and have sex on our patio every day and eat our food and hang out. It's historical.
It's because the energy must be really great in your apartment. They're like, this is the spot.
We love this. Anyway, so that's what's exciting me the most right now is my little mourning doves. But other than that, well, first of all, what excites me is helping and inspiring other actors, right? Helping people get clarity, helping people get direction, helping people get those aha moments when they feel stuck. Like that, that's why I've been a coach for 13 years, right? Like that fuels me in my own acting career, my own artistry, is to help other people do that. So that really excites me. Um, and it's exciting me right now. I'm feeling really well this year for me. Um, so I'm going to flip it, right? So I get really excited and inspired by my clients, and that fuels me. And on the flip side, I can get lost in that.
Mm.
Um, where my client successes start to feel like my own, and then I get so caught up in that I won't focus on my own
Oh my
acting
God, I
career.
do that too. Yes.
And that can be challenging, and my business has had about 3 different incarnations in the past 13 years because I needed to take a step back. And I had started to feel that again at the end of last year. So I'm really excited about some changes I made in my business to have more space, more time. And so I'm really excited this year about just reclaiming my own acting career and having that
Great.
back again, and just feeling really excited about the auditions that I'm getting and the people that I'm meeting right now. It just feels like it's a matter of time. I feel like I'm in a good space and good groove. So that's really, really exciting to me at the
Awesome.
moment. Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
Um, yeah.
And then in terms of, have you noticed a big difference in industry? Yeah, post pandemic.
Yes. Oh God, yeah. Um, I mean, I'm sure you felt this in New York. I mean, 2020 was such a year of coming together, right? Of we are all in the space together, and like, let's learn as much as we can, let's grow as much as we can, let's be little sponges, let's, this sucks, and
I
let's
love.
figure it out.
Yes.
you know so 2020 was like, felt awesome. Like, it was community, and I was working like 60-hour weeks in 2020, just like
Great.
teaching and coaching and being there and helping, and it was just, but it
Yes.
felt like, oh my God, we're doing it in this middle
Yeah.
of all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 2021, I felt like we're starting to get in a groove, and rebuilding. And
Yeah.
last year, I think everyone was like, cool, we're back to normal. you
Yes.
know and it wasn't. And I've been chatting with some casting directors recently, and even just looking at the numbers. And this one casting director shared with me that I'm gonna get the statistic wrong, or the number wrong, but like in 2022 at this time, there were, like, I think 42 pilots that had been made.
Hmm. Hmm.
This year there's 13. And
Wow.
like, and
Really?
in like, prior to 2020 was like 180 or something, something crazy, right?
Mm.
Last year, 2022, from Film LA, like there was a 30% drop in film production,
Mm.
2022.
Interesting. Hmm.
So I think what we're starting to see, and so many clients are like, I don't know, it feels slower, it feels slower, it feels slower. And it does feel a little slower, because I think, we feel like pandemic's over, we don't have to wear masks now, like, yay, everything's open. But I think the industry now is finally feeling the financial repercussions of COVID.
Mm. Oh, that would make
You know,
sense. Yeah.
because my husband's a production accountant for a Disney TV show, and
Oh,
so
cool.
like he shared with me during like the amount of money that they had to pay for
Mm.
all the COVID stuff, the insurance, the protocols, the tests, the this, and just because COVID happened, the lot is still saying, "Well, you have to pay us," right? So they're still
Right.
paying for their spaces, they're still paying for everything, and then not being able to shoot anything, not getting any product for it, and then
Mhm.
having COVID come out of it. So I think, feel like we're in time right now of friction and caution in terms of the creation of stuff,
Mm.
which is why I think we saw a Night Court reboot on TV. I think we want more comedy, and we want things that we know worked. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so it makes sense that there are less pilots this year, because they're probably going to put less money into stuff, right? And the layoffs that are happening at Disney and Paramount, and the merge with Paramount and Showtime, like there's so many different things happening now, and they're all because of money and
Yeah.
finances. And that
Yeah.
just trickles down into how many shows are being made and how many auditions there are.
Right.
So things, I think, for actors definitely feel slower,
Yeah.
so I think we just get to remember that, 'cause I think as artists, it's hard to go, oh God, I was getting all these auditions and now I'm not. What's happening? Is it me? Am I terrible? The casting directors forgot me. Nobody likes me anymore. Like we go down that whole spiral, as opposed to remembering, well, let's look at the trends in the industry. And we also get to remember that they might not be writing for you right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
in January, I had a lot of auditions for some great film auditions. And I've had some auditions this month. They've been a little slower. They just weren't writing for me as much this month.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
might not write for me at all in March, and maybe in April I'll have 30 auditions. Who knows, right? But
Yeah.
we gotta remember that it's a cycle, and the
Mhm.
trend cycle and the writing trend cycle. And so the biggest thing as an actor, as an artist, is just to remember your value and not
Mhm.
need that outside validation to
Mhm.
remember that value.
Word. I mean, it's a lot like life, right? There are ups and downs, there's ebbs
Yeah.
and flows. Yeah, it's crazy how quickly we forget that when
Mhm.
it comes to something we're passionate about. But, at the
Right.
end of the day, all of this stuff is collaborative. It's dependent on so many people, it's
Yeah.
dependent on so many different types of budgets. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's actually really great words of wisdom. So, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, this has been awesome. So much great stuff. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing from the actor's perspective. Cause like I said, I don't get a lot of actors in my world anymore. So thank you for speaking, to the actors. Is there anything you'd like to promote and or kind of share some final comments about?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, you can follow me on Instagram, Jodie Bentley Career Coach on Instagram. I'm Jodie Bentley on all the other platforms. My website's jodiebentleycareercoach.com. I have a ton of free resources there. But one thing, if you are an actor and you do feel stuck or you do feel like, I don't know what else to do, I created this really cool quiz to really lean into your strengths and find what's in the gap. And I give you a lot of tips of what to do. So I invite you to take the quiz. It's Finding Your Actor Biz Superpower. I know you'll share the link, Emileena, somewhere, but I really invite you to do that. It's all personalized to you, and you will get some really great content for what you can do to move forward now, so we can get out of that feeling of stuck or lost, which is never fun.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you. Yes, the links will be down below, whichever platform, all the platforms. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So I'll make
Excellent.
sure those all go into that. Yeah. Thank you so much again for joining us,
Yes,
and
thanks
good
for
luck with everything out in New York. Break LA. I mean, New York, LA. Now I got to get it straight because I'm leaving New
I
York.
know, I know.
Too many places. But yeah, and just remember there's always another way. So we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.